Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. It is a real pleasure today to be introducing a new presenter for APCUG's Wednesday workshops. We're so excited because we're always looking for new presenters, and we hope that this is a good experience and others will join. Today, we have Joe Nowark from the Indian Prairie Computer Club. Joe holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and teacher certification from Western Illinois University. His passion for technology ignited in 1980 with the purchase of his first Apple II computer. Just a year later, he joined Radio Shack as a salesman and quickly rose to become a computer trainer. In 1985, Joe began a 24-year tenure at the Columbia College in Chicago, teaching foundations of computer applications. Alongside this role, he also led evening computer classes for adults at a local high school, sharing his expertise with learners across generations. Joe has been a dedicated member of the computer enthusiastic community. In the late 1980s, he joined the Chicago Computer Society, where he moderated special interest groups focused on word processing and the internet. He regularly gave presentations to both this group and the Indian Prairie Computer Club, continuing his outreach even through the pandemic by offering Zoom training sessions to keep people engaged and learning. After retiring from Columbia College in 2009, Joe remained deeply involved in tech education. In 2022, he partnered with GetSetUp, an organization that invited him to teach classes, a role he still enjoys today. Currently, Joe is immersed in the world of artificial intelligence, with a special interest in text-to-image generation and AI-driven storytelling, topics he's excited to share with you. Today, we are going to be talking about, or Joe is going to be talking about, AI-generated storytelling, which is something all generations, it's not just for one. Anybody and everybody, I think, will find out today that this is a pretty neat idea. So, Joe, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be switching over to the screen for just a second here. So let me get the share going here. And should be everything there. Okay. And we want to go to that. There it is. Okay. And there we are. AI-assisted storytelling. Can you see the screen, I hope?
Very good.
Okay. We're going to take it basically from the concept to the finished book. This presentation will take a little longer than 5 minutes, but the basic idea, depending upon how fast you can type, will take probably less than 5 minutes to create a book. That's the book with text and with images. The book is usually 10 pages, actually 11 pages in length, but occasionally it'll go to 12. We'll take a look at these as we go along. If we have time at the end, we'll actually create one, and you can see what that's like. And little disclaimer at the beginning here. One of the things you have to be aware of is that this is the storybook feature of Gemini, and it's a gem, if you will, what they call a gem, and it's under experiment, and it may have some glitches. It could change from the time that I make this presentation to the time the meeting's over with and you try it out yourself. We've discovered a couple of glitches in the program, and we'll mention those in the presentation here and workarounds for them. But the content of any story generated is solely the responsibility of the user, as the AI will create a narrative based entirely on the user's provided prompt. And I have to qualify that. Sometimes it fills in blanks. If you don't give it everything, it'll kind of fill it in for you. I was interested in Sue's program because I thought, because it's something that I did, was I created some semi-autobiographical things, they're done in a storybook fashion. But if you leave things out, it kind of says, well, to get from here to there, they must have done that, and so it adds that in. Whether it's true or not is another story. But just so you know. And some definitions to get started with. I'm sure most of us are familiar with these, but just as a double check, generative AI is AI that creates new text or content. I'm just going to fly through these. Large language model is an LLM, an AI system. It's trained on lots of text and information. The prompt is instruction that you give it. Prompt engineering is the art of learning how to write prompts to get the best results. Algorithms are that mysterious magic that makes AI happen. Hallucinations take place when AI generates false or nonsensical information. I seem to find less of that hallucination thing going on as of late, so I think they're working on getting rid of those, but it's still going to happen. Okay, what does a storybook program do? Well, when prompted, it will generate text and images. You can customize the narrative, and it automatically organizes the content into a logical book-like format. Types of stories you can create if you don't have any ideas off the top of your head. You can do animal stories, science fiction, myth, situation ethics, set up scenarios, do a projective thing even. Have somebody that, they can tell a story. This could be a psychological thing. That's my way back psychology thing, is get somebody to make up a story and give them a situation that they might find themselves in, and you find that they project that information. So it could be used as a projective tool as well. And you can use it for training even. Okay, what you do. The first thing you have to do is be specific and descriptive in your prompt. Okay? Make sure you give it the information it needs. Now, I've created prompts to create a book with basically one sentence. I've also had as many as 250 words in the prompt to give it the story. And each time it came up with a story that was more than adequate for what I was looking for. Use keywords to define the style. If you want it in a particular style, if you want it third, fourth grade level, if you want it more for adults, etc., you can ask it for that. It defaults, I would guess, probably to about a fourth or fifth grade level of writing, but I'm no reading expert, so I can't say that with certainty. Give it some context. Give it the situation in which you're dealing with. Where is this taking place? These are all things that you want to keep in mind while you're creating your prompt. Keep the request concise but comprehensive. Don't write the book yourself. Give it the information it needs to write the book, but don't write out the whole thing. You don't have to. And use an iterative process. In other words, if it has an error, Go back, tell it to go back and fix it. It will. Here's kind of an example, specific descriptive prompt. You're going to write a story about a dog. You need to give the dog a name. If you don't, if you don't provide some of these things, the storyteller or storybook will give those things to the story. So that's why it's important that you kind of give it the right information. So we have a dog, so you give it a name, call him Puddles. You tell it where the dog is going to be, where the location is, a city park, the quest, seeking a special friend uh, that they see when they go to the park, lesson learned, importance of friendship, if you want to have some kind of meaning to the story, you can tell it that you want that. Okay. And then I've got to do a little rearranging here. No matter what I do, I always have things in the way on my screen. Uh, you can tell it that you want the story light and whimsical. You can tell it you want it serious, etc. So those are the kinds of things that you do with the with your prompt that you should consider when creating your prompt. Keywords, type of story. Is this a mystery? Is it a fantasy? Is it an adventure? Um, art style, watercolor, claymation, manga. Um, I did I wanted to see what it would be like, so I had to create a book of on the story of Noah's Ark, and it was a nice book, and it had pictures, the appropriate kind of pictures that you would expect, man with long white beard and all that kind of good stuff. And then I said, well, I wonder what kind of art styles I could use. So I chose The Simpsons, and it created a story of Noah, except you had Homer Simpson was Noah, and from there you carry on. You can imagine what the rest of it was like. So it did that. And so you can control the style of art. Context, physical characteristics of the character. Does the character have any distinguishing characteristics? Do they have long hair? Are they blonde? Are they brunette? Are they redhead? Are they tall? Are they short? Are they overweight? Are they skinny? All those kinds of things. Um, one thing I have to caveat on this is that I must admit it does have a bias. Um, if you don't tell it that you want multicultural characters, every character will be white. Okay, but sometimes it will change the character. I had one where I did a thing for our senior club, and one of the staff members there always wears a Hawaiian lei. And I mentioned that as being a physical characteristic of the person. And lo and behold, because they wore a Hawaiian lei all the time, uh, the system made them Hawaiian looking. So that was kind of interesting. And she was Hawaiian anyhow, but that's beside the point. I didn't have to say she was Hawaiian. So it filled in that blank for me. Um, the location description, is it large? Is it small? Does it have does the building have lots of windows? If that's important. If it's not important, you can accept the generic image that it creates. But if it is an important feature, then certainly mention it. The emotional state of the characters that are in this, whether they're agitated, excited, happy, sad, etc., and your target reader. This is more, you can say, well, I want this for a fourth or fifth grader, um, or I'd like this to be for adults, to be read at an adult level, and it will do that. I generally accept the default level. They're nice, pleasant stories. We don't have any murders or anything like that taking place, so we don't need to get that kind of deep into it. Um, be comprehensive but concise. Provide specific details, but avoid unnecessary minutia. Um, I had one character that was, once again, it was kind of based on a true situation. One of the staff members at our senior center is bald, and I mentioned he was bald. And then, of course, in the text it said, John, who was bald as a cucumber or something like that. Not a good thing. So I had to go back and say, uh, make John bald, but don't mention that he's bald, and it said, okay. So it gave him a toupee and let it go at that. Uh, if it's broken, go back and fix it. If there's an incorrect graphic element, a story I created had a father and son at the movie theater. Unfortunately, their seats faced away from the screen for some reason. So I went back after looking through and reading the story. I went back and I said, on page 4, you have the father and son at the theater, but their seats are not facing the screen, and they should. And it went back and rewrote the book and came back with the correct picture. And now the father and son were facing the stage or the screen. Sometimes there's a plot line error. If you have a story and it's supposed to go from point A to point B to point C, and it goes from A to D to C, or some other offshoot, you can go back and tell the computer afterwards, say, give it the page number, tell it where it went wrong and what it did wrong, and it will go back and it will make the correction. And the same thing, continuity errors are a little bit difficult to fix. Sometimes you'll have a character will have a something like a blue sweater in the first 5 pages, and then somewhere along the line on page 6, their sweater will have a design on it, even though it's taking place in the same time frame. You can try and get those fixed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, with a short story like these, it's not too bad. I quite honestly think it's a lot better than the shorts that you get on YouTube when they have still pictures telling you weird stories about bullies that get beat up and all sorts of things like that. Sharing. One of the things you can do is after you've created the book, you can share it online. Or you can print it sometimes. That's one of the flaws that it has. But if you say that you want to share it, what it does, it will create a URL where the book will be located, and you can share that URL with friends, etc., and they can go out and read the book. Now, you're supposed to be able to print a hard copy. I went ahead and told it I wanted to print a hard copy, and it said, okay, and then nothing happened. And to Bob's point, I said, I wonder what I'm doing wrong. So I went out to Gemini, who controls this thing, and I said, hey, I tried to get it to print and it wouldn't print. I said, what's the problem? What am I doing wrong? And it said, you've come across a glitch that we sometimes have depending upon the configuration of the computer. And sometimes it doesn't do the printing. Okay. So sometimes it will work with your printer and sometimes it won't. But there is a workaround if you still want to print it. It takes a little bit of time, but you can get the job done. I think the hardest part is, coming up with a story, and that just takes a couple of minutes. The time-consuming part is if you want to print this thing, and we'll show you how to do that if it doesn't print normally for you. Okay. Um, this is how you go about sharing. You click on the share icon, and the book is assigned a URL. The URL will last indefinitely. However, if you decide at some point in the future that you want to get rid of that, all you have to do is go back to your um, Gemini history or your storybook history, go back, find the conversation that you used to make that book, and delete it. And if you delete that story, that section, it will delete the book, the URL from the system. I recommend strongly that you create a listing of URLs for stories. And let's see if I can go there from here. Okay. This is my storybooks with Gemini. A book title, a storyline, a URL, and I also have some of them that I've done tiny URLs for. But this is probably something that you should consider keeping so that in case you want to go back to one of those stories, or if you want to send these off to friends and relatives, you can do so. Oopsie daisy, where am I? Here's my PowerPoint show. That's it. Okay, good. And one of the caveats when you replay the book, if you have a wide screen, in other words, if it's a rectangular screen as opposed to a square screen, sometimes when you go back to read the book, you'll find heads chopped off and things like that. And I had one book with a dinosaur in it, a brontosaurus, as a matter of fact, and we know that they have these long necks. And the cover of the book had originally had this really nice picture of a little girl with a friendly-looking brontosaurus. And when I went back to read the book, the brontosaurus had no head because it was chopped off. So once again, I went back to the AI and I said, "Hey, why did the head get chopped off?" And it said, "It has to do with aspect ratio." So if you change the size of your browser screen and make it a little bit more vertical, rectangular, if you will, so that it's taller than it is wide, you'll get that back. There's a caveat there too, but it's a very, very minor one. And that is that the text that appears, some of it may go off the screen, but we'll deal with that when we take a look at a book. So this is a problem I was just talking about with aspect ratio. This is when I try and read this book with my regular full screen, and if I cut this down and turn it into a more rectangular vertical type of screen or tall narrow image, I'll get this picture instead. So, and the print icon is at the top right of your book. There's a hard copy for yourself if you want to try and do that. I don't even try to print mine anymore. I just automatically, if I want to make a print copy of it, I put it into the word processor, and we'll show you how to do that. Or you can print a PDF version, once again, if your system is configured properly. And there are apparently no instructions available for setting up your system properly to print. So I haven't met anyone who's printed this, so I can't give you any additional information on that, I'm sorry to say. Okay, but the workaround for printing, is for the printing problem, you open your word processor, access your book online, and this is kind of tedious. You change the page orientation to landscape in your word processor. You click the center button. This is before you put anything in there. Then you go to layout, page setup, layout, page, vertical alignment to center. That's what that whole third line is all about there. You change the vertical alignment to center. Then you go to the book page where the book is located. You hit the print screen or the Windows key and plus Shift plus S, and you highlight that page. You define it and select the page. Then you paste it onto the document page. It will be there in the center of the page, vertically centered and horizontally centered. And you do that for each one of the pages because they're different pages. You have a picture on one side and a text on the other side. And so they're put together in that way. That's the way the text and the graphic go together, and that's considered one page. So you repeat the previous steps for the entire book. That takes probably, I'd say maybe another 6 or 7 minutes to do that. And then you're ready to go, and you can print the book or you can save it and send it off to people, however you want to deal with it. And these are some of the book titles that we've had in the past. I think the one that Judy saw was A Wise Call. It's about the grandparent scam. I know Bob used this to create a book. I believe Bob used this one because it looked very much like what these books look like. He created a really good one on computer security that I thought was really well done. This Flame's Great Journey. I used to have had a box turtle for years and years and years, for a couple decades, and so I wrote her story. And this is the Great Ark Adventure, which is Noah's story. So we're gonna break off from this, and we'll show you one of the books here in a second or two. And we'll take, let's see, I won't run you through the entire book, but let me find here, where is it? I will use this one again. Okay. And there we go. And this is the story. Now, as you can see in the Wise Call here, okay, their heads have been chopped off. That's an aspect ratio problem. If I narrow this down, now we can see the whole thing. Okay. And I'll center that a little bit more. Whoa, I didn't want to do that. There we go. Whoa, where'd you go? Where'd my book go? I lost my book. I have to go get it again. All right, be that way. See if I care. Well, we'll do it from here. Okay. And this is a book. And let me make sure I have the volume set. Okay. And you can have the book read to you in a high-pitched voice or a lower-pitched voice. The higher-pitched voice is female. The lower-pitched voice is generally male. And this is called The Wise Call. It provides a title. I haven't actually given a title to any of these things. It gives a title if you don't. I believe you can give it a title, and we'll see what we get here. Here's a bit of the story.
The Wise Call. Eleanor and Walter loved their quiet evenings. They'd often sit by the window, sharing stories and sipping warm tea, grateful for their cozy home and the love that filled it. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, the telephone rang. It was an unusual time for a call, and Eleanor looked at Walter with a curious glance before picking up the receiver. A shaky voice on the other end cried, "Grandma, Grandpa, it's Lily. I'm in trouble. Big trouble." Eleanor's heart fluttered. Lily? In trouble? The voice explained, I was arrested, and I need money for bail right away. They won't let me go until I pay a huge fine. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll be so upset. Walter.
Okay, we'll leave it there. But you get the idea of how the story works, and it took basically about 5 minutes to create the entire book. The prompt that I used, no, I didn't get the prompt screen ready. Okay, well, we'll load that up. Prompts, where are you? Prompt, storybook prompts, there we go. I also keep a collection of my prompts that I used for various books in case I want to do the book again with modifications. But we have somewhere in here, we have the wise call. Where is the wise call? Well, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Create a storybook about a senior citizen couple who receive a phone call one evening from someone claiming to be their granddaughter. They claim they have been arrested and need a large sum of money. This was the prompt that we used, and that's the story that it created. That's the story it created. And we're going to try to create a story. It's kind of interesting. Last night, I went ahead and I wanted to test this out. And I said, I want to run it through because I may want to create a story tomorrow for the group. And so I tried it. And you know what happened? It crashed. And what it was doing, it was printing the story, but it wasn't printing the pictures. It kept saying that an error occurred. And I went back and I asked Gemini again, I said, what's the problem? And he gave me all sorts of technical stuff. It said, you got to change the AIP and you got to do this and you got to do that. And I said, I think I'm going to try what you always try when you run into a problem. And I went back and closed the program, opened the program, and it worked. But just in case it fails me today, we'll see what happens. So we're going to create this file today here, and go in here. I'm going to expand this out again so their heads will get chopped off a bit. And we're going to go back to, I want to go to, where are you? I have way too many tabs on my system. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Go to this one. Is this one good? This is another one. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll do this. What the heck? Okay. This is basically the book I was trying to write last night, but we'll do them again. And this is the prompt. Create a storybook about a retired college computer instructor named Joe. This is not biographical. Yes, it is. Even though he retired, he continued to provide computer training through his local computer club. And this is basically the information that John read to you about me earlier, but it's done in a storybook fashion, or will be when we run this. So we're going to run this thing, and I think it's going to probably give me pretty much the same story, pretty close to it. But this is what it's doing. It's creating the cover. And it takes a little bit of time. And it says it's written a book. And there is the book. And let me move myself out of the way here. And we'll see what it has to say. And we'll have it do a lower pitch voice here because it's about Joe here and his work that he does. Oh, come on, why aren't you?
When Joe hung up his professor's cap,
There we go.
he didn't stop teaching. His mind was still buzzing with bits and bytes. Instead of a big lecture hall, he walked down the street to the local computer club. At first, Joe taught everyone how to make the best spreadsheets and write perfect letters, the basics that make work easy. He loved seeing the aha moment on his students' faces. Then, the whole world changed. The internet arrived, like a giant, magical library opening its doors. Joe quickly learned all about searching, finding old books, and watching videos of dancing cats. Joe's classes grew and grew. He taught hundreds of people how to navigate the new digital world, from online databases to the latest video calls. He felt like a captain sailing a brand new ship. Then came a time when everyone stayed home. Joe missed his students, but he wasn't going to stop. He learned a new tool called Zoom and transformed his desk into a digital classroom overnight. Soon, people weren't just joining from the local club. Seniors from all over the world started tuning in, from chilly Canada to sunny Australia. Joe was suddenly a global instructor. Joe's presentations became famous for making complicated things simple. One morning, during a huge global meeting, a bright voice popped up on his screen. "Joe," the voice asked, "can you show us the amazing storybook feature of Gemini? We need a master storyteller to guide us." Joe's eyes twinkled. A new challenge. Joe dove into the new world of digital tales, where simple words could paint grand pictures. He knew this was the next great thing he had to share with everyone. Joe keeps his schedule open. Whether it's the very first computer club meeting, a massive worldwide Zoom call, or a brand new technological story, Professor Joe is ready to teach.
And that's the end. So, that's pretty much what we've got. I'll stop sharing the screen here in a second or two. Let's see, where do we want to go? We'll go there. What the heck? Okay, and stop sharing. And do we have any questions?
Well, you got a big comment from me. I have had so many people say, it's not that they're afraid of it. It's like Zoom. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to make a fool of myself. And I just recently, well, John and I just recently heard about a group that closed because of Zoom. And they're just, oh, it's something new. We're seniors, blah, blah, blah. But it relates to AI. I would love to start using AI, but I have not got a clue. This presentation, Joe, just gave all those people a clue. I mean, it is super simple words, your book's words. This is absolutely fantastic. They can stop and start the video as they need it. They could, print things out, the slides and everything, Windows key print screen. So I thank you for something that I have been asked for, but we get more complicated things because I have people
And the
tell me
thing is,
we couldn't do that because we've been using it for so long. We can't go back to basics. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
yeah, and the thing is that, kids can use this as a follow along read. It can help them read because it reads to them and they can read the words as the story is being read to them.
Yes.
One thing I just discovered is that, well, number one, you do have to have a Google account.
Yeah.
So if you have Gmail, you got it. Also, if you're under 18, I think they they don't allow you to use it under 18, or definitely under 13. They do have a thing through the schools where between the ages of 13 and 18, you can use it, but it's some kind of supervised situation. You can check with Jim and I because they'll give you all the details. There were lots and lots of details about how you go about getting that. So, but I didn't think we'd be needing that for
This
grade
group.
schools in this group. But uh, at any rate, that it is something, and it can spark the creativity of the kids. It's really great. But it's good for adults too because as you saw from that story, it's it, and I kind of feel like one of the things that uh, you have to do with this is you have to realize that it fills in the blanks. You know, it puts Joe in a situation where he's standing in front of a big screen with a map, and all these people from all over the world are there, and his Zoom program has a grid with 25 people in it and all that kind of good stuff. That may or may not be the case. Usually, it's not that big a group, but it really kind of expands things for you. And kudos to Bob. Boy, that book that you did, Bob, I just thought was really great. Um, at any rate, but and if you haven't seen it, I know Bob's posted it out on Facebook. I think it was on Facebook, and you should go out and read it if you get an opportunity. It's really good. It's really a nice book, and it's good for senior citizens,
I'll be
I think.
including his senior series in the handout along with the 3 URLs from Sue plus her genealogy handout. But I have grandson number two's in Ann Arbor, and he's the senior teacher in the fourth grade of a Title I school equals poor people,
Hmm.
and all around his area. And he's been there. This is his second half year of teaching. He's almost completed a whole year. And he's a senior teacher because they hired a gal to be the other fourth grade teacher. And I get the kick out of that. But I immediately, when I heard you talking at Huey's meeting, thought, Scottster, he could write if you guys remember the golden books that we did for our
Yep.
kids and talked about happy birthday and their names and blah, 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 blah. My daughters still remember their books and but have him make a happy birthday book like this. I mean, this is a parent pleaser for one thing, but I can't imagine being a little fourth grader and oh my God, my teacher made me this book. It's all about me, what I like to play on the playground and yada to
And
yada. And I thought, how cool for these kids who are behind the curve, but it will make them exciting about things. And I mean, I thought about you guys
and I
on
haven't
your
used it.
websites, how to get new members, put a series of the grandparent scam, the this scam, the that scam, the hoo-ha scam, the whatever, and link them to your website and advertise that this is what you talk about, and perhaps you'd like to, check out the website and something to encourage people to visit your group, and you're doing innovative things like this. And it helps the grandparents who have absolutely no clue about the grandparent scam. And this just opened up all of this for Scottster and all of you guys, as far as I'm concerned. And
And
I
Katie,
wanted it simple. And by golly, as a 22-year adult ed teacher, you've got your hearing, you've got your eyeballs, and that's two out of the, three ways of learning and watching what he's doing is, it hits almost all of the ways you try to reach, I'm sorry, little kids in preschool, because that's where I started, and you guys who are seniors. So thank you. Bob
and
G, you're
and
on.
okay.
Unmute, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't able to before.
That was for
Right.
John.
I control everything.
Yep. Okay. I first got introduced to this after my great great granddaughter was born. and I used it to do a projection of her first 5 years of life. That's how I started with Storybook. Now, what I'm in the middle of right now with two projects. The first one are 14 episodes of the most used scams, and there are
Oh, that's
14
great.
separate books on the most used scams. And the other one is a 10-book series on Windows 11 version 25H2, which this morning updated on all of my computers. So I'm a little behind because I only have two of those new features available, but it's a series, or will be a series, of 10 books on those brand new features in the latest update of Windows 11. So, and I have a couple of tips to offer for John. The problem with not printing, if you use the male voice, you're going to run into problems. You have to change over to the female voice and your printing problems disappear. Creation of PDFs, the same thing. If you use the male voice, which is not your default, it won't work. You need to go back and put it back into female voice. You're not listening to it, you're just producing the information. Then it'll work just fine.
It doesn't work with female voice on mine either. I tried
Huh.
that.
I've never run into it. It's always been the male voice that gave me the problem. Switching
I,
back to
I'll give
female,
it
it was
another try.
fine.
That'd be
Okay.
great. They have a
The
lot.
other,
Rule. What can I tell you?
when it chops off the heads, go into full screen mode, use F11 in your browser so you get rid of the address bar and all the other crap, and then you're fine. You don't have to go through making all of those gyrations. We're changing aspect ratio.
Oh, real good. Thank you. I'll
Okay?
do that.
Yep.
That was that technical word crap, wasn't that?
Yes.
I knew that. John Kraut, you're on.
All right. The first thing that came to mind when I heard of this subject is, okay, it's done online. I understand. You made that quite clear. But what if somebody who represents a large publisher decides that you have infringed their copyright? And they find out that you created a little book that they say does that. It's a David versus Goliath situation. And my guess is that the Gemini storytelling tool is going to completely disclaim any responsibility, which leaves you as the creator holding the bag, so to speak. I wonder if anybody has given any thought to that scenario. I don't know if it has ever happened, but it does strike me as one of those things that modern lawyers might well investigate.
Bob.
It's created by AI. Therefore, there is no copyright infringement.
I do not believe that is correct. Copyright infringement is based on access to the original and similarity of the content. It is not based on how it was created.
I think that's already
Creation
been
of an
that's
old
already
book.
been proven in court.
Nope. If it's
It's already
generated
been.
by AI, it is not copyrighted.
Okay,
Therefore,
I
you want
I
to
do
take
not
my story and use it, be my guest. I
Bob,
can't
I'm
prevent
sorry.
that.
I do not believe that is all settled
Okay.
law. It
Well,
is too
okay.
new.
that is the law in this country
Yo.
as it stands right now. So,
I don't know what your country you're talking about, but it is not the
US.
law in the United States.
Yes, it is, sir. But that's beside the point.
Provide me the statutory citation or the legal citation. I do not believe either of those are available.
I think it's been already tried in court, John.
Okay,
what is the court case?
somebody needs to send me the ruling.
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure
The thing is,
Who took it to court?
I think we have a misunderstanding here. John is saying if a book has been published and is copyrighted, and you create a story that is similar to a book that is copyrighted already, that the publisher of that book or the writer of that book can theoretically bring suit against you for copyright infringement. Is that right, John? Did I get that right?
That's substantially what I said, yes.
Okay. And what Bob is saying is that the work that you create with the storybook is not copyrightable. And that's correct also.
That may be correct,
That is
but
correct.
that does not relieve you from copyright infringement.
That's right. And I see where you're going with it, John. That's a good question. That's a good point.
And Bill James is going to look it up and let me know which it is. And if anybody has an attorney in their group that's a member, Leah, do you have any? Oh, Stephanie. Okay. I'll send it to Stephanie and see what she has. She is a retired attorney and an officer in one of our SoCal groups.
I am
we'll see
not
where
an
it is.
expert in copyright law.
I know.
When I was a
somebody
lawyer,
else
that
who
was my
actually
field of
practices.
practice.
Okay, Stephanie's not going to do it. So if anybody has any,
John, if I make up a prompt and it generates a story, how am I infringing on somebody else's copyrighted book?
Access and similarity. Those are the two.
Well, there's always
foundations.
going to be a similarity no matter what you create to something that's already been created, because creation is what I interpret and what you interpret. I'm not saying create a book based on somebody else's copyrighted book.
And you don't have to say that.
Look at
what happened to George Harrison when he wrote My Sweet Lord. He had no clue that he had copied the song She's So Fine by the Chiffons that he had heard in the early 1960s. He wrote that song more than 10 years later. He had no clue that he had copied it, and yet he lost that case.
Look at your chat.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if
look at
this to YouTube, if it says what it happens to say, because
look at your chat
video before you can publish it to let you know if you have any copyrighted information in it.
Judy, look at your chat. Cal has already posted the what I was referring to.
Tech law, blah blah.
Yes, it says that it's been repeatedly reported the U.S. courts rejects that AI can be copyrighted.
That is not the issue I raised. It's whether a book created by AI can infringe someone else's valid copyright. And I do not believe that has been settled in American law.
Can we table this and move along?
Yep.
Yes.
Never mind.
What I'm getting at is that I know from experience in my own user group that there are lawyers that look for infringements by posted material on user group websites.
Oh, we have an attorney firm that has gotten in touch with a gazillion groups about a photo. And they're all about photos, and it's usually AP's the photographer or whatever. And since we're nonprofit 501c3, we don't make a dime out of what's on there. They say, thank you very much for letting us know.
That is contrary to what happened with our group.
I know, and you guys
It didn't matter that we were nonprofit. It didn't matter that we weren't making money. We still had to pay.
Isn't that interesting? Because
that is very consistent with the U.S. copyright law, by the way.
Thank you. Can we now move along?
Okay, yes, Thomas, thank you. I will close the discussion by when the groups have contacted APCUG and said, do you have anything about this? We do. And none of the groups have had to pay. Diane Binder, you are on.
Okay. I don't know if I'm a afraid to say this or not. Um, anyway, all I wanted to say was what I had done accidentally. And then I heard Joe's presentation. Of course, he was talking about Gemini, but I do crafts and I do journaling. And in one of the groups, I was asked to do a little Halloween journal. And to make a long story short, I decided to write a story, a scary story. But then I didn't have Dawn to do it all. So I thought, how can I do this faster? So I went to Copilot and I put in some prompts and I wrote this cute little Halloween story. And it did the whole thing. I just wanted to let everybody know you can do and the fun little things with your children or grandparents or whatever. And that's what I did. I didn't publish it. I did. I just put it in a little journal and I gave it away free to the people in the group. Ta-da.
Yeah, that's the point of my point is you don't publish it. You just
Right. I was just having fun in my
whoever
head.
saw.
And I wanted to share it with everybody. And it really turned out cute. And I didn't like everything it said, so I went through and edited it myself. But it gave names of characters. I wanted it to be a story about a family in a haunted house. So the prompts all gave to that and related to that. And then I found a picture of this so-called fictional family online that I put in the journal. And it turned out really cute.
Thank you. John Kennedy.
Okay, Joe, question for you. When you did the story for us, I couldn't read all the prompt because it was a little bit small, but I do know that the prompt that was there had all the details about creating the story. But I don't remember seeing any kind of prompts that created the graphics and all the pictures that it did. How did those happen?
It magic. I don't know. Quite honestly, it basically takes your story and it creates the characters. Like I said earlier, it does have a tendency, a bias, if you will, towards white individuals. If you're going to have any kind of group activity or something like that, you need to say that it's multicultural people or whatever. As far as the where the pictures come from, it adds that on its own. If you don't give it the information, it pulls it in from God only knows where. But that scene with Joe sitting at the computer, it it I didn't tell it he was sitting at a computer. It just kind of took the information that I gave it, told it what Joe did and that he taught, and it was computer training. And it took care of putting computers on the screen. It took care of light boards. It took care of um, him putting the staff, working with people on the computer, etc. It did all of that. That's the part that it does the creation. Otherwise, I would have to say, well, on page one, we're going to have a picture of this, 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 and this. It takes care of that, just as it takes care of organizing the overall story. I've had some books where I've typed in the information and I said, wait a second, I want to have this in there too. And I put it in at the end of the prompt. But in the book, it puts it in the right spot. It figured out where it needed to go. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't, but other times it does. It's always an adventure when you get that book for the first time and you look at it, and you're going to get a sheet of the prompts. You're going to get a sheet of that spreadsheet with the books on it. And you can go and take a look at the books and then match them up with the prompts and try them yourself. I recommend that people try those prompts or take the prompts that is there, substitute your own information. One of the things you can do is and I have not done this yet, but you can take a photograph of someone and put it there and say, this is going to be Tom or this is going to be Mary. And it does not use the photograph per se. but it will create a caricature of that person. It's supposed to. I haven't done it yet, but that's what it's supposed to do. I tried to do that with a building, and it came up with a really strange looking building. Unfortunately, the building, well, I had to do a thing about the library, our town library, and it came up with a real classical kind of um, Washington, D.C. kind of architecture thing. And that's not what our library looks like. It's a little more modern, more contemporary kind of structure, but it's got some strange angles to it. So I gave it a picture of the library, and it came up with a strange looking building. I say it's strange. It's a good looking building, but it's certainly not our library. But it had lots of windows and things like that in it. So, but you can do that. There's a little plus down there. I don't know if you saw that or not, but you click on the plus and it says, what do you want to do? And you give it extra files.
Okay, my quick question is, why do you see text on the left page before the graphic pops up?
I have no idea. I
Okay.
think it
That would
probably
be a
just,
question
yeah.
for Google. I will do that.
I think it's neat that the text is backwards. As you turn the page, then the new picture comes.
But then a beautiful picture comes up over
Yeah.
that text.
Yeah.
But it was backwards.
I
It
want it to come up immediately. Anyway, Bill James, you're on. Our
Yeah,
last.
you also want the little guy to go out the door, but that's not going to happen either.
Well, first I want to say, Joe, thank you so much. I mean, I was unaware that Gemini had such a feature, but I've been using um, ChatGPT to help me with some stories I've been writing. But the thing that I was most fascinated about ChatGPT was their line drawings. And I'd like to just show you some of the things that I did using a prompt, asking them to create a line drawing based on some of the activities in the story that I'm writing. And so I'm going to share my screen. And but if you see, these were line drawings that were made using the story that I've been working on is Tommy Chronicles, and so these were um, scenes within the story, and I asked ChatGPT to provide the drawings, and that's the result that I got, which I thought was really fantastic.
Cool.
Pretty good.
So
And all the writing is his personal writing.
yes, but I use
Here.
uh, I use Chat GPT to help me with some of the problematic portions I've had with the story. But then you gave me some more ideas about, because the thing I've always had problems with is character development. But I noticed that some of the prompts that you used within using Gemini, you were able to give the character a nationality or whatever, and it was just how you generated the prompts. Because the prompt engineering, as you mentioned, is really a key factor in all of this. So you really need to practice your skills in uh, prompt development or prompt engineering, because that is really the key to getting a good product.
Yeah. Now you can.
And my help with that is I have 5 grandsons, and I would say no kid in their right mind would be doing that. Or you've got the same information here and you just have it a little bit different down here because I'm a proofreader. And so he would take, the duplicate, change it out, and all that good kind of stuff. And I love the Mustang. I wonder if Ford's going to come after you.
Well,
I'm
it's not. There's some
It's
this
exactly like a Mustang, Bill.
well, it looks like one, but there are some parts of it that's not a Mustang.
Yeah.
But
And Bill would know Mustangs.
Right. He
exactly.
sits in his garage there. Okay. Now
But I think Joe was going to add something. He mentioned.
Yeah. One thing I didn't put in there, and I just realized that what you should do is when you're going to write your storybook, when you go to the left-hand bar, uh, command bar or whatever it is for Gemini, you'll see a drop down, and one of the things there is storybook. You want to click on that storybook. And while you can do it without saying this, I always use 4 words at the beginning of my prompt. Create a storybook about. And if you do that, even if you don't access the storybook gem, it'll create a storybook for you. So because before I even discovered that storybook was a gem, I was typing create a storybook about. And then I found the menu choice there. So be aware of that.
will you say that? Oh, put that in the chat box for me, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I am in my participants list now, which is different than the raised hand list. And I have some questions here for Sue as well as Joe. So, John Metcalf, do you still have your question? Oh, never mind. It's just a comment for Sue. And Joel, you already gave me your stuff. I have John Kennedy. Do you have anything else that you need to know from either one of them? Nope. Okay. Michael Yablowski, you got your 2 questions answered or comments? Connie Edwards, do you have any questions or comments?
I think Joe answered them. At the
Okay,
end.
thank
I
you.
was questioning about how did he prompt to get the specific type of illustrations as were shown in the WISE call. If I understood him correctly, he said it just took care of himself.
Okay,
So-
thank you. John Kraut, you've got a tick here too. Did you get to talk about it so I don't have to mention it?
Yes.
That's it. I'm done. Bob G, you have your hand raised. It's difficult to find your hand, you know.
Well, that's because it's trying to cover my face.
I know it. Actually, your thumb
I
is
have
sticking in your ear.
one more suggestion or one more tip to pass along, and that is AI itself can be your prompt writer. If you don't know how to write a prompt, you do know how to tell what you'd like to do. And if your typing isn't so good, use the microphone button and just talk to it. It will then create the prompt for you to create your storybook. Because that's what I do most of the time. I allow AI to actually do it in such a way that the prompt winds up being something that it already knows in advance. If you're using Gemini, this is going to be Gemini's storybook. So write the prompt that will get this information into that story.
Thank you. Picture Bob. He's sitting in his recliner that he has in front of his computer. He's leaning back, talking to his computer while he's having a dust storm in New Mexico. There's your prompt, Bob. Anyway, I have this wonderful thing here that I know that I am going to get the Canadian genealogy group that Dorothy from Victoria Computer Club is going to give me, but I do not have the name of the person who is interested in me doing that for them. So if you are still here and you're interested in Canadian genealogy, put your name in the chat box for me. I'd appreciate that. So much for my note taking.
Okay.
John, walk us off. We're done.
Nope, Sue had something to say.
I was going to say something to Judy, if that's okay.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to update that handout to have interview questions on it. So I will send it to you tomorrow.
I was going to ask you to do that.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me know you are going to do that.
Yep.
And a fantastic 2 different presentations. We appreciate both of you. Let me know when you have something new. I know kind of when I asked for Sue, I know she's probably just updated the presentation that she says, oh, I'll do this one. And I never ask her to do anything. She tells me what she's going to give a presentation on. So thank you very much for attending.